as a patient, I don't want to have to call around to look for my prescription. I just expect for it to be there when I show up. Our number 5 reason why your prescription may not be ordered, and that is because of back orders or inventory challenges.
Yes. So sometimes you come to the pharmacy and you realize your prescription is not ready. So two inventory reasons. The medication is out of stock or the medication is on back order. And then let me address the out of stock issue first. So out of stock essentially means that the pharmacy just happened to run out of medication. And that can happen because maybe the inventory system got a little bit off and the quantity that was listed in the system is actually not the quantity that's on the shelf. That happens occasionally. Or more of the medication was filled than normally would be filled. So that's why the medication is out of stock in the pharmacy. So those are the general reasons. And in that case, many pharmacies can order the medication and it comes the next business day. Now, let me address the other issue. So the back order is essentially when your pharmacy tried to order the drug, but their wholesaler does not have it. Maybe because the pharmaceutical company that is making the drug or the manufacturer that is making the drug, maybe they ran out of supplies or they had a high demand and they just cannot send it to your wholesaler and to send it to the pharmacy. So that's a back order. And in many instances, you can call the pharmacy before you go to pick up your medication to see if it's ready. And if it's not ready due to a shortage or out of stock or a back order, ask the pharmacist or the pharmacy technician, when do you expect it to arrive? And if they say the next business day, if you can wait the next business day, then come back the next business day. If they say, unfortunately, we don't know when our wholesaler will be able to send it to us, then if you don't have enough to last you for a few days to wait and see, then call around other pharmacies and see who has it so you can get your prescription filled there. Because yes, the pharmacy would love for you to continue using them, but we all understand you got to take your medication. We don't want you to be out of your medication. So check other pharmacies to see if they have it in stock. If other pharmacies are in the same situation because they're using the same wholesaler or the same manufacturer, then the next step would be contact your doctor or your healthcare provider, and they can change the medication to something else that works or treats the same condition that is available.
Now, Dr. Mariko, I'm going to tell you right now, you were telling me all those steps. As a patient, I don't want to have to call around to look for my prescription. I just expect for it to be there when I show up. So, as you were talking through those steps, I was thinking about all the wonderful softwares and apps that Dr. Tiff and Dr. Shamita were talking about in terms of I can just go into the app and I can see what the progress is. And so if I can see that my drug is on back order or inventory, then I already know what's going on with the prescription. So can you all talk about, Dr. Shamita or Dr. Tiff, talk about what does that look like? Because I hear a lot, while Dr. Mariko said, call the pharmacy and call the staff and ask, man, those phone calls then throw everybody off for other things. So it's how do we then teach patients to support themselves so that everybody wins, basically, and it's an efficient system?
I was going to say those phone calls become a competing priority when several of them start coming in. But I can speak particularly for a couple apps. Sometimes you'll see, oh, this medication's out of stock or there's a delay. Generally, if it's sent electronically and it's not a paper prescription, you can actually reallocate that prescription to go to a different location within that retail chain. So, and I use Walgreens as an example. You can go into the app and say, hey, instead of picking it up at this store that was right up the block, maybe there's another one, because there's one on every corner just about. We go ahead and pick it up at this location. And then you can see, again, it going through the process. This pharmacy has received it. It's going through billing. It's ready. You can also see the price of it as well. So, some people call and they're like, hey, how much does this cost? It's right there on the app. and it avoids you having to call in and wait on the phone and get frustrated with the wait time and the wait time on the phone. I don't know, Dr. Shamita, what have you experienced?
So similar to your situation, one thing I would do is I would go into the system and I would see what other stores in the area had in their inventory. And if I located a store, I would call the patient and let them know, like, hey, we don't have it, but this store that's maybe like 15 minutes away has it. Do you want me to contact them for you and tell them to prepare that prescription for you? And another thing was we had multiple wholesalers that we purchased from. So I would, if I couldn't get it from one wholesaler, I would reach out to the backup wholesaler as well to see if I could special order that product for them. So there were different ways we would try to work around. Either we would use a backup wholesaler or we would reach out to another chain.
That happens. Sometimes you end up reaching out to another chain.
You're right.
Oh, yeah.
Calling CVS down the block or Walmart across the street and saying, hey, just to take care of my patient, hey, we don't have this. I've looked in my inventory of all the other, all of our other locations, we don't have it. The first question that I would tend to ask is, hey, are you guys experiencing a back order too? They may carry a different manufacturer and they're like, no, we're not. And ask them if they'd be willing, to take that patient and communicate with the patient and make sure they're okay picking it up somewhere else. But those are options. And I want to say, a lot of the times we try to look out for patients, but sometimes there's so many things going on. So when you hear that, when you as a patient come to the pharmacy and hear that there's a back order, it may be best for you to give suggestions of where you would like to pick it up instead of us trying to guess and willy-nilly calling everybody in the world to try to see if they have it, which can take time. And the transfer can take time if we're transferring to another retail facility or retail chain that's not ours. That's a process, because just like you're calling, to try to get through to see what's going on, we're calling to make that transfer. And that becomes another competing priority. Sometimes for other retail chains, having a transfer coming in you might not be number one on the list. You might be number 3 or 4 on the list. You might get put on hold. And I don't know, here in North Carolina, we have the ability to fax transfers over, but that there's a step-by-step process that occurs. We can't just call a retail chain or get a fax number for a retail chain and just send that over. There's some steps and processes and legalities that come along with that before we can just fax your information over to another facility. So just keep that in mind. Think about where you might want it to go. That can be helpful.
I think that's a good point that you brought up, Dr. Tiff, is that, we are here to support our patients. And so at the end of the day, the chains may be competing against each other, but we as pharmacists aren't competing with each other. So I have no problem whatsoever calling another pharmacy, asking them if they have that medication and making sure you're able to pick up your prescription over there. Because if you're using insurance, you're going to pay the same price regardless of whether you pick it up at my pharmacy or ABC pharmacy down the street. We want you to have your medications. So I think that was a really great tip, Dr. Tiff, that you added, is to, if we don't have it when you arrive, and because of a back order or inventory issue, and of another pharmacy that you wouldn't mind going to, we don't have a problem calling, we don't, in our experience, we do not have a problem calling. I can't speak for every pharmacist, but we wouldn't have a problem calling to make sure you're able to get that medication. Dr. Mariko, did you have something you were going to add?
Oh, I was just going to add, it may be a little irrelevant now, but I was just going to add, so the big retail chain pharmacies, they may have those fancy apps and fancy technology, but many of the independent pharmacies that can really give you more personalized care, and community health center pharmacies, we may not have those types of apps where you can go online and check the workflow of your prescription. So just keep that in mind.
Would want to go ahead and call, but the same tip applies. If your independent pharmacy doesn't have it, there are other options outside of just waiting that 1 to 2 business days. And if it happens to fall on a weekend, sometimes it doesn't come next day. So keep that in mind as well.
We just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of That Pharmacist Show. Please leave us some feedback and comments because we want to hear from you. What more do you want to know about the world of pharmacy? Don't forget,
Like,
Comment.
Share.
and subscribe. Dr. Tiff, tell them how they can get their own That Pharmacist Show t-shirt.
so we really value your feedback and we're very receptive to your opinions and your comments. So going forward for this mini series that we're going into, if you comment, whether it's giving us some feedback or asking a question, you get yourself entered in a raffle as a giveaway to get one of our That Pharmacist Show t-shirts.
And
Oh,
don't
that-
forget to follow us on our social media. All the information can be located in the description box down below.
Yay.
Yay, that's awesome. So thank you. Bye.